Hey everyone, I am Mad Max, and I'm going to do a little follow-up to the Jailhouse Confessional video. I'm going to react to these three videos. How Prison Gave Me PTSD by Jessica Kent, What Happens to People with Disabilities in Prison, and Learning to Love Yourself by J.D. DeLay. I haven't heard his last name, so I don't know how it's pronounced. Anyway, for a quick background, I was convicted in 2005 of child annoyance. I hired a hooker whom I thought was 19, who I was told was 19. Turned out they were 17, and they said I had a blade in my blind cane, and I took the first deal offered. Never do that. By my public pretender, never do that. And, yeah. So I did a year, did 5 years of counseling. Suicidally depressing counseling. I still have scars. And, yeah, I just wanted to react to these videos because I did have PTSD. I am disabled. And I've had to learn how to forgive myself. And part of that is coming to terms with this whole thing and accepting that I did do bad, but I am not a chomo. I hired a hooker. Everything was consensual. There was no coercion. So, yeah, this is kind of me trying to. This is me kind of trying to sweep all the last bits of skeletons out of my closet, you know? So, anyway, let's get to this. God damn it.
What's up, you guys? Welcome to today's video. As you can tell by the title, we're going to be talking about PTSD in prison and how exactly people get PTSD in prison,
That's a little loud.
I got PTSD in prison, and how I didn't realize it until I was home. If you're new here, hi, my name is Jess. I'm a person in long-term recovery who has, in fact, been to prison. If you want to follow me on any other social media platform, TikTok, Instagram, Patreon, that's $2. It's only ever going to be $2. All of that is linked down below, as well as my vlog channel, my podcast, and my Facebook. Little side note, I am posting like mini vlogs and stuff on my Patreon now, and I'm like really revving it up with that. I kind of slaps, right? If it's bigger than your head, then it's... So I've been filming content about prison for almost 4 years now, and a comment that I get on a very regular basis is that my experience wasn't traumatic. I don't have PTSD because I've never been to war, things like that. So let me just start off this video by saying if someone...
Okay, so first off, bullshit. Trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder, shell shock, can be gotten from any trauma. The trauma of being molested when you're 4 by... wait, I'm not supposed to say who did it. But, yeah, I was molested at 4. I was beaten by my uncle. He wasn't the one who molested me. He wasn't even related to the one who molested me. Going to the nuthatch, getting beaten up in, grade school, fucking, going to jail, all that shit, all the trauma in my life can give me post-traumatic stress disorder. If you went through something actually traumatic, if something fucking kicked the shit out of you and broke you down, it's PTSD. Now that's not to say that everybody has PTSD. Fucking some dickhead disagreed with me on Twitter. I have PTSD. Fuck you. No, you don't. But you can't say that. You can't do the whole no true Scotsman fallacy, because you can't say what traumatizes someone. And yes, I know I did just say that, the people who said that someone on Twitter disagreed with me in trauma and blah, blah, blah. That is me saying that they are weak people, not that their trauma isn't real. Their trauma is real to them. I'm just saying they're weak people for allowing something so minor to be trauma. And I'm sure there's fucking 20 years, people, prison, fucking people have been shot at, war veterans and shit that would say, oh, you only did 8 months. Well, yeah, that's true. But you got to remember where I came from. I'm disabled. I lived a very sheltered life before I went to jail, before I went to the branch. And my argument is from there to there is quite a big jump, much the same way, from the football guy to the Marines is kind of a big jump. And I think it is the incongruity with one to the other, the space between one and the other is where the trauma comes in. Not to mention, the actual events.
tells you that they are diagnosed with CPTSD or PTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder or post-traumatic stress disorder, it is not your job to tell them that what they went through was not traumatic, because the only people that know if a situation was traumatic is the person that experienced it, not you. It's not your job to try to make them feel better by telling them that other people have gone through worse things.
Obviously, I haven't actually watched this video yet. I just saw it and watched like the first 20 seconds of it and went, oh, that'd be a good idea for video.
Because that makes you feel worse. I was diagnosed with PTSD about, I want to say 3 or 4 months after I came home from.
Oh, and I've never been diagnosed. The only reason I knew I had it was the night terrors, which she might get into.
Prison, and I did not know that everything that I was experiencing were symptoms of PTSD. And there's a lot of symptoms that I don't think a lot of people talk about, so we'll get there. I want to start with what that looks like. So how did prison give me PTSD? And the very simple answer to that is that my body was in survival mode for a long time.
Yeah, I definitely identify with this from intake to out. I was keyed the fuck up. I'm almost positive that the reason my fibro is as bad as it is because I was keyed up for 8 months straight. I mean, I've always been in pain, but after I got out, it got so much worse. And it's probably because I was just on all the time, because even after I got my sentence, even after after all the bullshit had gotten done with, because I'll probably get into what ended up happening, but the short version is I had a lot of mental breakdowns in jail. No bravado. I completely just pussed out. I lost my shit. I crit failed my mental save. I'll put it in that way. So, having that many mental breakdowns, thinking you're never going to get out, you're never going to amount to anything, your life is over, you've let your family down, you've let yourself down, you've let everyone down, and then you get into the other inmates, it's terrifying. My lips were blue on the photo because I was fucking terrified. So, anyway.
So you guys all know the, fight, flight, or freeze response from our body, right? Well, if our body is in stress, if we're really overwhelmed, if we're in chaos for too long, our body automatically goes into that fight, flight, or freeze mode, which is survival mode. A lot of experiences can cause this. War zones, narcissistic abusive relationships, emotionally abusive relationships, prison. There's so many things that can cause your body to get into survival mode.
Abusive relationships. Boy, she is not fucking kidding there. Man, I won't even go into the kind of relationships I had in the past, but let's just say they were not good.
Oh, there's like a really loud truck outside of my house right now. I'm so sorry. When we're really stressed, our body, our brain, it just wants to protect itself, but we really...
What is this? Cortisol gets a bad rap. As the body's primary stress hormone, cortisol surges when we perceive danger and causes all the symptoms we associate with fight or flight. Increased blood pressure and heart rate, muscle tension, and the digestive system sliming to a halt, resulting in nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea.
Release a chemical called cortisol. It's the stress one, right? And when we have too much of that for too long, it causes a lot of issues with our brain. And
I wonder if it causes my male pattern baldness, because I went bald after jail.
There's still a lot of studies coming out surrounding...
Fucking Christ, lady, come on. Experiencing the effects of cortisol can be uncomfortable and scary, but they serve a purpose, helping us run faster from danger, lift heavier objects, to protect or defend ourselves and our loved ones, or perform other survival techniques. So it's adrenaline. And I'm way in touch with my adrenaline. I know how to fucking push every ounce of adrenaline out of myself to run extremely fast, lift extremely heavy things, etc., etc. That's just how I am, being in touch with my body the way I am. Like, there was no passive release of cortisol. There was no passive release of adrenaline. I chose, like, my body said, you're on, and I said, yes, double it. So anyway, but cortisol, also called hydrocortisone, does many other things in the body other than trigger fight or flight. It's essential for managing metabolism, blood sugar, circadian rhythm. What circadian rhythm? Funny story, I didn't actually get a sleep cycle until I got CHIP. Before then, I was asleep all hours of the day and night. There was no rhyme or reason to it. The immune response and inflammation. considering fibro has a ton of inflammation problems. Cortisol is a steroid hormone that your own body makes, explains Disha Narang, MD, an endocrinologist in the Chicago area and a member of Endocrine Web's editorial board. If someone has a bad backache or infection, doctors will administer steroids to decrease inflammation. Cortisol is your body's own way of doing that internally. Apparently, I don't make enough because I'm always inflamed, always. In the right amounts, cortisol also contributes to good memory, motivation, and decreasing pain sensitivity.
The stress hormone and PTSD, but there are a lot of symptoms of that. So how did prison cause that for me? Well, I was in fight, flight, or freeze mode, survival mode, for so long that I was, constantly in a place of chaos and stress. And
she's right about chaos. Fucking Christ. The funny thing is about jail, prison is actually supposed to be better than jail because you have more freedoms because you're supposed to be there for longer. Like, I couldn't get a TV or a radio or anything like that. I had to get books bought in. And that shit was expensive. But God bless Joe for getting me books.
And when I got out of prison, I realized there's no chaos. I mean, life is kind of stressful, but like, I can relax now, right? Like, no.
Oh, God, I feel that. When I got out, Joe can tell you because I had to live with him for a few months, I was jittery as fuck. I was jumpy as fuck. I was worse than I am now. I was so bad. Every time a siren went by, I freaked the fuck out. Every time, like, anything happened, every time my PO came by, every time I got a phone call, every fucking thing set me off. I was so on edge because I was so goddamn sure that they were going to put me back in on bogus charges. Because, I mean, look at what I went in for. Fucking Christ. But yeah, when you are in the chaos for so long, you become used to the chaos, and when it's not there anymore, you're like, where's the chaos? So yeah, I totally get what she's fucking saying.
Because your brain has done that for so long, it kind of just becomes normal.
Apparently, I'm just going to step over her words.
I was very in tune to sounds, and I see that still years later in my life.
Yeah, that finally fucking edged itself out. Come on, Chippy. Come on in. There you go, buddy. You gonna lay down? You gonna lay down? Are you my emotional support dog as well as my fibro dog? Is that what you are? No, you're my wife's dog now. We signed the papers and everything. Yes, we did. You gonna lay down? Good boy, Chippy. Good boy. Yeah, good boy. Go ahead. You're good. I'm praising you for doing a good job. Yes. Good lay down. Good boy. We moved his beanbag. What was I saying? Fuck. I'm gonna go back a step.
In tune to sounds, and I see that still years later.
Yeah, that's what it was. The hypervigilance, yeah. So, related, tangentially, I had PTSD from a car total. My wife got T-boned, back passenger side. Of course, I was in the passenger side, so I got the worst of it. I was freaked the fuck out about... What are you doing, dude? Oh, you're getting more comfortable. Okay. I was freaked out about car rides. I was hyper vigilant, looking at everything, making sure that we weren't going to get in another crash. And it went away. There were no nightmares or anything. Like it wasn't as bad PTSD as the jail one because it was just an incident that happened rather than 8 months of incidents that happened. So there are degrees of these things. Like I know for a fact I had PTSD from when I got molested. I just can't remember how it manifested because I was 4 at the time, and I can't remember this shit. Anyway.
In my life, I get very overstimulated. I also have ADHD. I'm a mess, but I get very overstimulated, and I'm very...
Hey, I have ADD.
Intently listening to sounds around me. So in prison, that looked like you had to always make sure that you're listening to what the guards say, and that's tough when you first go to prison because these dorms are super, they're big, they echo.
Oh, God.
Open the doors, and they'll go like, "Oh, God!" Do you know what I just said? No. Over time, and they slam the doors, it's loud as shit, right? So over time, you realize that that's chow call. And they just yell this into a very, echoey, open dorm with people talking, and it's just loud, so you have...
Yeah, that was way worse at the branch. When I was in medical, I was in a cell with a bunk, me and another guy. For a while, it was me and some nerdy dude. I didn't really know much about him. He was gone in a week. I think he was doing a 10-year bid. And then the other one was a bullshit charge an ex-gangbanger named D, who I still know where he is. I found him on Facebook. He looks like he's doing good. But where's I going with that? Oh yeah. I was on the medical, and then I was in the branch. And on the branch, you could not hear a fucking thing, because, like, I have the hearing loss in my left ear. And anything echoey, anything big, anything, like, open, I can't hear shit. So it was a non-stop migraine for those 3 months. I mean, there were good times too, but oh God, I was in pain.
You have to very closely listen to what they say. You have to listen to people around you. You have to make sure that if someone is near you, what they're doing. You have to, constantly be on guard in your sleep. So in open dorm settings, it's a lot more stressful because there's a lot more noise going on. But in an open dorm setting, I could have my sleep mask. It's a sock over my eyes, and I am...
It's a sock. That's great.
...sleeping or resting. But if this is not before lights out and there's like TVs on and there's movement, sometimes I would just do that and act like I'm sleeping just to kind of decompress. But I can tell you probably how many people, give or take, are in the bathroom, what someone's doing in the day room. I can tell you, what they're watching on TV. I can tell you conversations for beds down or 4 racks down. I'm so aware of every single thing happening in the dorm all at once. What? Why? Like, just relax. But my body doesn't know that. And when you see people get beat up in their sleep, you tend to be very aware.
So we didn't get people beat up in their sleep because jail is short time, relatively speaking. I did 8 months. 8 months is not short time, but compared to 10 years, it's very short time. So, there weren't any fights because everyone was just trying to get their time done. There were disagreements. I mentioned one in my last video about the guy who took my fucking chocolate milk. But there were other disagreements, and before it got bad, the trustees would get the offending party the fuck out of the pod before we beat the dog shit out of him for bringing trouble on us, because that was the one thing we didn't want. We didn't want the guards coming in and upsetting the apple cart. People had hustles they were doing. The rest of us were just trying to pass our time. I did D&D, like I said. And apparently D&D is really common in prison, which both doesn't surprise me and surprises the absolute fuck out of me. So, anyway.
Hypervigilance in prison doesn't just end in prison. When I got home, I'm like, well, there's no need for me to be listening to every little thing, every creak, every time.
Yeah, tough shit, still doing it.
I don't have to listen to every conversation to figure out what they're saying. I don't have to pay that close attention to who's walking around me. It is important to be aware of your surroundings, but PTSD takes it a step too far. Now, that's just normal prison life, right? When you add additional trauma into an already very stressful situation where you're already hypervigilant, you're already in survival mode, you're already like tense and on edge, and the guards are crazy and they're mean, and you don't really have any control over anything that's happening to you.
So I will bring up guards. I didn't have a problem with 9/10 of the guards. There was 1/10 of them that were really good. There were 1/10 of them that were real assholes. The rest of them were just trying to do their job. And I treated them as the faceless entities that they were supposed to be. I didn't treat them badly. I treated them with respect. They treated me with kind of respect. Are you fucking kidding me, Chip? All right, go on. I'm not letting you in when I'm doing a video again, dude. This is why when we get a house, I'm putting a dog door in my fucking door so that he can just go in and out whenever he wants. Christ on a bicycle. Anyway, good guard story I went over last time with the D&D supplemental material. That was really cool. I didn't even ask the guard for it. He just dumped it on my lap. Bad guard story. One of the guards in the medical floor threw my cell. And that's what they do. They throw your cell looking for contraband and shit. I had a fuck ton of books. He took all of my books and threw them away for no reason. Well, I know the reason. It's because I was in a PC cell, and he thought I was a chomo, and I'm not a chomo. There's a difference between a sex criminal and a chomo. I hired a hooker. I did not rape a kid. There is a difference, damn it. And I do want to touch on that really quick. I say that for myself, because I have doubts. Because I'm paranoid as fuck. Still, 18 years later, I'm paranoid as fuck that I'm going to get the shit kicked out of me for what I did. Because all of this hatred for chomos. And, like, I'm of many minds of it. For one thing, okay, a pedophile. A guy who is attracted to kids. That must suck. I feel terrible for those people. Right up until they touch a kid. Once you touch a kid, I don't feel terrible for you anymore. I feel terrible for the guys that are about to kick your ass because, yeah. And that's not to say that they can't reform. They can. They should. You know, one child is bad enough. But if you fuck up again, yeah, you deserve to die. And if you do a violent crime against a child or an animal, you definitely deserve to die. Like, it's being that close to it. But knowing I didn't do that, it fucks with my head because I'm the bad man, but I'm not that bad man. I hired a hooker, you know? It is what it is. But it still fucks with my head. And that's the biggest reason why I've hidden the jailhouse stuff for so long, is because it does fuck with my head still, 18 years later. So, where was I going with this? Fuck.
Guards are crazy and they're mean.
Right.
You know, you don't really have any control over anything that's happening to you. You have to get strip searched and your stuff goes through and...
The fucking felony. Okay, so here's what happened. I hired a hooker. The hooker said they were 19. Turns out they were 17. They also said a bunch of other shit. So a cop comes to my... I get the handy, whatever. $50 for a handy. Very expensive. They offered, I accepted. It is what it is. And a few months later, a cop comes to my house, and he's like, "Okay, did you hire a hooker? We have testimony." Yes, I hired a hooker. They said they were 19. Well, turns out they're 17. Are you fucking kidding me? And they also said you tried to rape them with a blade hidden in your blind cane. It's like, how do you even put a fucking blade in your blind cane? What the fuck are you talking about? So he got me to admit the one thing, and then he tried to get me to admit all this other shit they said that didn't happen. And they did an investigation for a month or two. I was living with Joe, and then they took me off to jail. They said, hey, there's a warrant out for your arrest. My dad took me in. He's like, well, my dad took me in, and he's like, well, I'm sure it's nothing. When we get done, we'll go to Subway. And my dumbass listened to him. I mean, I guess it's a good thing. They didn't have to go out looking for me. It wasn't a big deal, so... But yeah, that was fun. Getting at the fucking sheriff's office, they put me they didn't put me in the back of the cop car. They put me in the front of the cop car to drive me over to the fucking jail to get processed and shit. And they let me have, the detective let me have my inhaler and my, let me grab my wallet and all this crap from the car and stuff because he knew I wasn't going to go anywhere because I'm crippled, for Christ's sake. So, I mean, you can tell I'm getting amped up again. I'm getting nervous again. 18 years later, I'm still nervous about this shit because I feel like I have to be honest with people. Like I used to for a while there. I was like, oh, college party. Oh, assault charge because I beat the shit out of somebody. But I want to be honest because God forbid anybody look me up and they find what I actually did and I lied to people after being so upfront about being honest for so long. I couldn't live with that anymore. I have to be honest. And honestly, I fucked up. And honestly, it isn't as bad as my, like, not even my brain, it's my heart. I can't, it's the fucking counseling. Because I had to go to sex offender counseling, and most of the sex offenders were fucking, either rapists, violent criminals, or they were fucking, chomos. And here I am, I wasn't either of those things. So the counselor didn't really know what to do with me except depress me to the point of suicide a few times. So I guess that shit's still in my head too. And after I got done with him, I made a promise to myself, I'm not going to let anybody ever make me feel like this again. And I, got into psychology and really looked into it, and it's still fucking with me. So, anyway.
And, like, you might fight someone because you bumped into them on accident. Like, that's already really stressful, right? So when you add another stressful or traumatic thing on top of that, like giving birth in prison in chains and then having your daughter ripped away from you, I was thrown back into a van, rushed back off to prison, and I can't really tell you much after I got back to the prison because I was trying to protect myself. And, that very traumatic situation happened at a time where I was already hypervigilant, already stressed, already going through a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I know what she's talking about. that specific kind of stress. I had that stress when I went to the branch. I had that stress when they were reading my charges and telling me how long I was going to be in prison for. Because, you know, they're trying to scare you to make the first deal you can, and I did because I'm an idiot. And don't ever do that. Don't ever take the first deal unless you're willing to take the first deal. I took the first deal because I was scared shitless. But anyway, this might as well be as good a time as any to bring up the mental breaks that I had. No, you don't get to come back in, buddy. Fucking like I lost my shit after in between Sellies, in between the nerd and the gang dropout. I lost my shit. I was having auditory and visual hallucinations because no one was in there. It was just me, and all the things in my head were coming out, and it was driving me completely insane. Like, I was never going to amount to anything. I dishonored my family. All this other... Dude, fucking fine! If you want to come in, you gotta lay down. Well, lay down. There you go. Good boy. Good boy. You better stay there this time. You gotta stay there. I need to do this video. Fucking pain in the ass. So, like, there was about a period of like 3 weeks where I'm just losing my shit. Every time I go to the visitation, I'm bawling my eyes out, fucking snot dripping and all that crap. I mean, completely no dignity at all. I have lost my shit. I have completely lost my shit. It was the nadir of my life because the dark tunnel that I walk through every day, there was no light. There wasn't even a semblance of a light. There wasn't a noise to guide me. There was nothing. And when there is nothing, and there is nobody to vent that onto, when you're just by yourself with nothing, there were no books, there was nothing. It was just me in a cell. I lost my shit. I was hallucinating. I was screaming. I was crying all the time. It was terrible. It was traumatic. Ergo, post-traumatic stress disorder. So, yeah. Like, I'm not here to be Billy Big Dickin' on anybody. I was a wreck. I needed to lose my shit like that to rebuild into what I am now. And I think that when you are of a certain mindset, maybe it's the ADD, but you have to be broken down like that. You have to lose all of those things you thought you understood so that you can learn the real world. And I think a lot of disabled people, and a lot of people in general, but like I said in the other video, with disabled people, you can really see it. They need to lose those safety nets. They need to get, wrapped on the knuckles really hard, some harder than others. I needed to get fucking whacked the shit out of on my knuckles to figure it out. Christ. I am better for it. Guilt complex notwithstanding.
In just a regular prison environment. So it's like it took a campfire and threw kerosene on it.
Yeah.
And that never went out.
Yeah.
There are symptoms that I don't think people talk about when talking about CPTSD and PTSD. So I'd like to list those for you now, but I first want to start with like the basics of PTSD.
I apologize that this video is going to be very, very long.
And that would be flashbacks, nightmares,
anxiety,
depression, hypervigilance. Things like that are the like normal, symptoms that most people talk about. Right?
Yeah, the night terrors, those were something else. Okay, so I had vivid dreams. Like, I could smell the BO from the fucking inmates' vivid dreams. And they terrified me. Like, I would wake up screaming. And one time I had sleep paralysis, and that scared the bejesus out of me. The wife was really helpful in that because she did a little time in her 20s when she was really sick. Before they knew she had Graves' disease, she was having all kinds of mental problems. And she got caught up on a shoplifting kick. And she was only in for a couple of weeks. But, I mean, trauma is trauma. She had her own shit to deal with there, too. And she was much more honor-bound about her family and shit than I am. But, I only loved my mom. She loved her dad, her relatives, and all that. Anyway, so she understood what I was going through because she went through it, too. She didn't go through it as bad as me, but she knows what, she has her own traumas that she dealt with. And so, yeah, I was having, honest to God, night terrors. I was anxious all the time. Night terrors are fucking horrifying. Like, you feel everything, you see everything, you hear everything, you smell everything, you taste everything. It's all of the bad shit in, well, in my case, in jail, just ratcheted up to an ungodly degree. Like, all the times I thought I was going to get beat up were times when I got beat up. And to go back to the whole, Chomo thing, they did find out what I did. It's not like I kept it a big secret. And when they did find out what I did, every inmate in the place laughed at me. They said it was the dumbest shit ever. They said there was no way I should get charged. I should have been released on good behavior. It was the dumbest shit ever because I was lied about. It wasn't, I didn't actually do anything other than, a prostitution thing, which, I hired a hooker. So that should have been a month or two with time served. And the fact that I got 8 months, that floored everyone. Somebody made a motherfucking killing on my case because they took bets. Everyone said, "Nah, man, you're okay. Nah, man, you're okay." Even in the branch, when they found out, "Nah, man, you're okay." The fucking detective laughed at me when we came up here. He said it wasn't even a crime up here. So why am I beating myself up? Because I beat myself up. That's what I do. I have a guilt problem. And this is the last vestige of all the guilt problems that I've had in the past. This is the one thing I can't seem to let go of, but I need to let go of. That's why I said this is kind of to help me too. So, boy, I really hope the blind community that I shared the other video with are going to get a kick out of this. Hi, guys. Please comment so that I know you watched it. Anyway, let's get back to this or I'm never going to fucking get through it.
Right. But then there's an entire list of things that people don't talk about, and that's what this next portion will be. The first one is TMJ, and that is basically where you're just clenching your jaw and you do it periodically, and because of that, you have pain. You can have headaches from that, and
oh no, she's right. I have a trick jaw. Before, all of this, I had ear infections all the time in my left ear. And I had swimmer's ear one year. And it got into my jaw joint. Bleh. And, oh, it was bad. I've had a trick jaw. Damn it, I can't pop it. Oh, there we go. And, yeah. Last year, I had a wisdom tooth pulled. They had to put me under to do it. My jaw got infected, so it was even worse. And so that was now, and then. In the middle, jail. A lot of clenching my jaw. Every tooth I've lost has been because it's shattered, not because it's fucking needed to come out because, gum disease or anything like that. So that's one I hadn't thought of. Oh boy.
It's just a lot. I do it in my sleep really badly.
Yeah,
and then
I do too.
I have this pain, and it just is there, and I can't control it. Like I said, I'm doing it in my sleep, so I don't even know that I'm not aware of it. Because I'm clenching in my sleep and waking up with that pain, I have to massage my jaw, and it is very stressful. I think I've talked about.
I take ibuprofen for, I'm inflamed in general, but my temporal mandibular joint, which is what TMJ stands for, it always needs popping, it always needs rubbing, it always needs, that thing that is going to drive me insane when I get older.
About this maybe one time, biting or picking. So I will pick at my lip or I will bite my tongue, and I don't know why I do this, and it's just like these little.
I bite my fingers. It's not as bad as it used to be. I used to bite my nails. I got an infection. Almost lost my finger. I think I brought that up in the last video. And, yeah, their medical care is dog shit. Okay, so maybe I didn't bring it up. I had an ingrown nail. They didn't get to it in time. I flew a kite and they just never got to it. And it got infected. There was a vein just whoosh, all the way up my arm. So I had to burst it myself with a paper clip. I did bring this up in the last video, and I had to wrap my fingers and yeah. So I don't chew my nails anymore, but I do chew my fingers, my flesh, because it's that hypervigilant thing. There's a loose piece, and I've got to get the fucker. And then there's another loose piece, and then there's another loose piece, and it just it's not as bad as it used to be. I'll chew the little ingrown bits out because I'm paranoid as shit about getting them infected again. And Like there's a rough spot on my thumb that I'm always going after, but other than that, it's not nearly as bad as it used to be. And this is before jail. This is the finger thing was when I was a kid, so
It's so embarrassing. It's like little bites on my tongue, and I can't explain it other than that, but I've kind of gotten a lot better with biting. I definitely still pick my lips. That's why I have acrylics, so I don't do that. But I would bite my tongue a lot before I got Invisalign. No one talked about that or told me that that is a symptom of my PTSD. They're just like, yeah, like flashbacks and nightmares and stuff, you know? But all of these little things that I experience on a daily basis stem right back to that diagnosis, and it's a lot more complicated than people tend to realize. The next symptom that people don't really talk about, because it's kind of slight and it's kind of mild, but it's chills. It's these random whole body chills, and not like, oh, it's a little cold, so I'm like, no. I was gonna try to like recreate that for you, but I can't because it's just very like spontaneous, I guess. It just happens. So
I know what she's talking about. I think that's my fibro, but it might also be the PTSD. It's when you have a lot of conditions, they kind of overlap. Like my hypersensitivity to light. Is that my fibro? Is that my eyes? I don't know.
So I get these like chills where like my whole body is like, you know, and I don't know why. I just know that it's a symptom of my PTSD. So not only do I get these like chills where I don't really have control over my body for a second, like it just does it, and not because I'm cold. I don't know, it's just really weird, but it's random chills. It's my whole body. I don't want to compare it to Tourette's, but at first
I know what, yeah.
Like, wait, is this something else?
I know what she's talking about, yeah. I've had those. But again, I don't know if it's my fibro or if it's PTSD, but I know exactly what she's talking about. You get like a fucking bolt of death in your back, and it just makes you jerk.
It's fast, and it doesn't hurt, but it's almost like it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's not causing pain, but it is uncomfortable, and it's just, I have no control over it. It's very out of the blue. It's very spontaneous. I can almost feel it like
damaged.
a fraction of a second before it happens, and it just happens. And if you spend enough time with me, you'll
I get it in my neck.
Another symptom is chronic neck or back pain.
Oh, god damn it. I was born with chronic neck and back pain.
I can't even tell you guys how severe my neck and back pain is. And, you know, I do a lot of stretches, and I'm going to go to the chiropractor, even though the neck poppy thing scares me. But I have a lot of neck and back pain. And I think that comes from just being very stressed and very tense.
Walking helps. If there's one thing I've learned from all my weight loss, it's that walking helps the back pain. It makes it hurt in a different way, which sounds counterintuitive, but say you're sitting here reacting to a video for an hour and a half like I'm doing right now, and if my back hurts, if I go for a walk, it hurts in a different spot. It moves it around. When you live with chronic pain, you learn how to move the pain around.
The moment in the day where I should be the most relaxed is when I'm sleeping, and that's actually when I'm the most tense. So I think I tense up so heavily in my sleep that I'm waking up with very intense neck and back pain. I have a neck massager, I have a back stretcher, and I'm constantly doing these like yoga stretches and positions.
Well, you guys heard me pop my neck, maybe. I'm actually not sure if the mic picked that up, but you probably saw the visual of me, jerking my neck to the side.
To try to help alleviate that pain. One of the techniques that I learned is, it's gonna sound weird.
The fuck is this? Wellness by Nora. Pilates instructor.
But if you like put your hand a little bit under your butt cheek and then go like this, standing up, go like this on the opposite side, you're gonna feel that stretch. And just kind of hold it there and then do it on the other side. Really just feels so good. You're gonna feel that whole muscle stretch. And there's tons of videos online where you can learn how to stretch those muscles and, relieve some of that pain. I also use CBD pain balm, and that helps so well.
Can't use pot. THC makes me sick. CBD doesn't do anything. If I imbibe THC at all, I immediately have to go to the bathroom. Normal people probably would puke it up, but I've trained my body to not puke ever, 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 except rarely. It is a rare thing. Like, even when I had food poisoning once when I was younger, I didn't let myself puke, and boy, my body really wanted me to puke. I was like, no, you do not puke. You go out the other way, damn it. And eventually it did, by God.
But yeah, chronic neck and back pain is a symptom of PTSD. Another symptom that people don't talk about is extreme fatigue. I mean,
this is weird because I've always been tired. I've always got the circles under my eyes. And that's, just from the lack of good sleeping schedule for 37, 38 years. Finally getting Chip has unfucked my sleeping schedule, weirdly enough. So maybe he is my PTSD dog.
I am tired all the time. I'm tired all the time. And yeah, I'm doing a lot of things a lot, but I have seen that progressively get worse and not get better. And you would think my time away from being in prison is, I've been home for years, 7 years or so, 8 years. Why are my symptoms getting worse? Well, it could be because the stress and the chaos in my life is increasing. So the symptoms are, you know, they're coming back, but I've always been very tired, and I've had to push myself to do everything I can to not be that tired. But extreme fatigue is definitely a symptom of PTSD, or it can be a symptom of PTSD. If you have all these other ones and you're diagnosed, it could be a symptom of PTSD. And lastly, I know I already mentioned like picking or biting, but this can look different. It could look like your fingernails, like chewing and biting and picking at your fingernails.
Whoops.
It could look like pulling your hair out. I forget what that is exactly called, but it could look like that. It is really frustrating to have all of these symptoms, especially on a daily basis.
I don't have hair.
So when someone tells you that they have PTSD, please know that's not just like, I need to sit with my back to the door. Like, it's so much more complicated than that. It is so much more complicated than that. And don't try.
It's almost like the human brain is a complicated thing.
To invalidate someone else's trauma or tell them that what they experienced is not traumatic.
Definitely not.
Or, well, you've never been to a war, so you don't have PTSD. Like, no. In fact, PTSD rates, combat war veterans, mirror that of inmates. So I really hope this video was helpful. I hope you learned something about PTSD and...
Okay, that's an outro. Ah, my fucking mouse. Alright, let's go to JD. Let's see how fucking loud he is.
So hey y'all, I've had several people with disabilities that are in our YouTube community ask me recently what happens to people with disabilities in
I only found him yesterday. I didn't ask him.
Prison. And you guys know that I always love making videos out of your suggestions and your questions, so we're gonna do this today. And luckily, I'm pretty disability seems to be Snake River Correctional Facility, which is the first place that they sent my big dumb Irish self. Now this place is set up kind of like a college campus. It's clean, it's nice, everything is current and new. They have climate control in there, like it's nice and cool. And
oh God, they did not have climate control in my jails. No, they did not. Yeah. That was not good for my lungs at all. Thank God we lived in a temperate region. Sacramento was very temperate, thank God.
In the summer, nice and warm in the winter, unlike OSP where I did most of my time, which is cold as hell in the winter and warm as can be in the summer. Which sounds so nice. It sounds like a great place to be if you're gonna be in prison, right? But the original intent for what they set it up and built it for really grinds my gears, because it was originally made for diddlers. Yeah, y'all know who I'm talking about, those guys. I have absolutely no idea why they want to give them the plushest, comfiest prison in the state, but that was exactly what they did. They built one complex, and they were like, look, this is out in the middle of the desert.
JD kind of goes on tangents. I can relate.
We're going to make it really super nice and comfortable for these people, and we're going to ship them all out there so they don't have any problems in GP. Then them baby bandits decided that they wanted to get slick, and they filed a class action lawsuit for discrimination, for keeping us separate from everybody you want.
For the record, that was fucking stupid of them. They should have just accepted the cushy lifestyle.
Be separate from everybody else. What are you thinking? What do y'all think happened? Violence! Violence is what happened!
Yeah, no shit.
So then they had to bring in other inmates that were like regular inmates from general population, and they shipped some of those weirdos out to the other institutions, and everything got integrated and everybody was happy except for the diddlers. And as Oregon slickly decided to just start locking up more and more of their citizens, they decided they needed to expand, and they built 2 more compounds, man. So they had like 1, 2, and 3, and I think it was 1 that was honor housing. I don't know, it's been like a long time since I've been there, and I never made it to honor housing because I'm a terrible person. You need like 18 months of clear conduct, not getting any DRs, any write-ups, not misbehaving at all whatsoever to go there, and I was not gonna get that. If I was there for my entire life sentence, I never would have made it to an honor housing unit. But since this place was originally set up for people with funny style charges, they made it all disability accessible. And so this is where they started shipping everybody with disabilities, whether they had good charges or bad charges, didn't matter. They just sent them out in the middle of the desert.
Good charges and bad charges. It makes me think that my charge is somewhere in the middle. You know, that's why I have such a hard time with it, because in a black and white world, I am a person of gray. I am the gray man. I am the bad man. I am gaining a lot of nicknames.
Snake River. Snake River ended up becoming Gladiator School! You see, in prison systems where the black market is really suppressed because there's no visits coming in, it's hard for people to get them to come see them. They feel like they have nothing to lose. It's really hard to get things in, like illicit substances and stuff like that. It ends up creating this scenario where people just do not care and they start acting however they want because there don't seem to be any relevant consequences. You've got nothing to lose anyway. What, are you gonna take my visits away? My people can't get here, bro. So the place got overrun by the gangs and it turned into a really violent scene. Yay! Now this place is out in the middle of Ontario, Oregon, which is the desert, and it sucks and there's nothing going on out there at all whatsoever. So you got some real corn-fed COs that are working out there. Their cousins and their cousins' cousins and their Uncle Bubba all work in this joint because it's the only thing the economy has to offer. And yeah, it's pretty easy to get these dudes to sneak stuff in because they want the money, but it's harder to convince your people to bring it all the way out there to give it to them. So the number one hustle out there is extortion. It's a real Lord of the Flies type of scene, if you know what I'm saying. And the thing about extortion is that you really have to set a good precedence of violence to get people to understand what's going to happen if they don't pay you. And at the same time, this is where we're sending the majority of our inmates with disabilities. And now that I've painted you a luscious mental picture like Bob Ross on bath salts, let's get into this.
Like Bob Ross on bath salts. JD, I love you, dude.
Okay, I think it's pretty important for you guys to understand that even in prison where there's a lot of bullies and there's a lot of whack stuff happening, people still don't like bullies, man, especially if you're bullying somebody who's disabled. That is a no-go, player. You are gonna get messed up, bro. Like, a lot of good dudes are gonna stand up for people who have disabilities in prison.
Yeah, that's what happened with me when that guy took my chocolate milk. Two people who were friendly with me held me back before I could swing on the guy because they didn't want me getting charges. And, you know, because they knew I was going to go out and never reoffend. You know, everybody knew it. On my way out, the cop who let me out goes, dude, I've been in this system for however fucking many years, he said. I think it was like 15 years or something like that. I've never seen an inmate I feel is less likely to come back. And I said, yeah, you're fucking right. I'm never coming back. And I haven't. But yeah, I just thought that was kind of funny that the cop on the way out said that to me, because I guess he was one of the ones watching us. I never saw him or anything, because I mean the cops, they had their little cubicle up there, so you didn't see them. And you know, the mirrored glass and shit.
As long as they're not there for hurting kids. Whether you're blind, whether you're an amputee, whether you're deaf, it doesn't really matter, dude. These people are off limits.
Yeah. That tracks with what I've seen. The only people who fucked with me were like at the very beginning, I got fucked with a little bit by the guy who was in the bed next to me. His name was King, and he had me buy him a bunch of commissary as a show of good faith. And you know, he's like, man, I didn't actually expect you to buy me that shit. And he's like, yeah, good, you got me. And I mean, that's where it was. I didn't take offense to it. He took the commissary and didn't, you know, he gave me an in on Pruno. I got to try Pruno, so that was fun. But, you know, after that, he did his time, I did my time. We didn't really pal around too much. He was a nice enough guy, just we ran with different groups. I was with the older people who were, you know, also kind of disabled, and he ran with the blacks. I mean, it was kind of a soft segregation. There were no gangs or anything there. It was a PC yard, for fuck's sake. And so we just ran with different crowds, but he was friendly enough, you know. He was friends with the guy who snorted the fucking spicy chicken ramen flavoring. But other than that, the only guy who fucked with me was that 18-year-old. Everybody else was pretty cool to me. And by the time I got to the branch, I kind of knew what was going on. But like even D was cool with me when I was super hungry one night. Super hungry. I was the one buying the ramen for the spreads. And I figure, okay, it's my ramen. I'm gonna go into his box and get my ramen. And yeah, that was dumb. That was monumentally dumb. And if I wasn't a cripple, he would have beaten the shit out of me. I know that because he told me. And he's like, man, even if you're a first timer, you don't take from someone else's box. Even if you bought it, that belongs to them and is, untrustworthy and blah, blah, blah. And I was scared shitless. I was blue-lipped, scared shitless. And he's like, no, you cook it, you fucking eat it right now. And I was like, okay. And I did. And yeah, that was a very hard lesson I had to learn without getting my ass kicked. That was, yeah. But I mean, this is after he and I had developed a rapport, and like he knew that I wasn't a thief. I was just super hungry. So that was then I started adding more saltines to my commissary. But yeah, I'd totally forgotten about that story. But yeah, that's that.
Because there's always going to be dudes like me who are going to stand up for them, so you better just leave them alone. I did time out there with one of my best friends from the streets, the dude who actually taught me to steal cars. And he got out, he went back, they shot him right back to Snake River. But in between his sets, man, he ended up getting paralyzed. He was in a high-speed chase in a stolen truck. They ended up cornering him. He went full bore, just ramming into like 6 or 7 cop cars, and they put 12 bullets into this dude,
Damn.
2 of which hit his spine. So homie will never walk again in his life. But you better believe that dude has built his upper body. He looks like a beast.
Damn. That dude does look like a beast. For the blind people, he is yoked from the fucking stomach up.
He's a gang member. He gets down. He will fight. In his wheelchair, he will fight. And he will beat you up. And he's also a really incredible artist, which is one of his big hustles, man.
Wow. He is a really good artist. That's a very good drawing of a vulture picking at bones in the desert.
Prison art is pretty unique. It's pretty beautiful. Dudes have nothing but time to develop their craft, to spend extra time on their art. So that's one of the things that he does in there. And he was already clicked up in a gang before he even got back out and then went back. So his homeboys watch out for him and have his back to the fullest, which I think is pretty beautiful. But even if you're not in a gang, dude, people are gonna protect you. People are not gonna let somebody pick on somebody with disabilities in there. That's whack. You will literally see these little old men in wheelchairs, and big tattooed gang members will be pushing them, talking to them, asking them how their day went. As long as you there on good charges and you ain't a snitch, man, you gonna be all right. If you...
Yeah, that was something else. The actual chomos, even though they were old and disabled, when people found out that they were chomos, they were not as looked as well upon. They were not looked after. Because it's jail and short time, nobody's wanting to get into any violence, so they basically just started ignoring them. So I was the only person who talked to the old people, and that was mostly because I wanted to know what they did. I wanted to know what led up to that point. And boy, when I got out, I got more than enough of that for my lifetime. Fuck me. There were so many old people in that counseling group that diddled their fucking grandkids because they didn't want to have to babysit them anymore. Like, this one dude. Okay, I'm not going to use names because obviously, and also I don't remember his name. I just call him Santa because he looked like Santa. And old grandpa never did anything before. His fucking worthless kids drop his granddaughter off all the time. He's having to take care of this fucking kid all the time. And the kid's, the kid's a kid, whatever, 4 or 5 or 6. And the grandpa's just getting more and more angry. They fucking, my kids were leaving their damn grandkid here all the damn time. And the only thing he could think of to do was to do what he did. And what he did was awful, but not unforgivable. It was counseling, not nuthatch levels. For fuck's sake. He molested her, but he didn't rape her. So it's like stories like that. And then you've got, this other dude. These are both in counseling, by the way. These are not, I didn't learn what anybody did in jail. This other dude in counseling, he's a foreigner from India. He comes over here, finds a girl who looks just like his ex-girlfriend who died tragically. And he's new, and he's got the culture shock, and he's drinking and doing drugs and randomly fucking bitches and all this shit. And he sees this girl, and she looks just like his old flame, and he's drunk, and he's fucked up on drugs, and he rapes her. Well, attempts to rape her. And then you've got me. I hired a hooker. What I did was illegal, sure, but I mean, fuck me. I didn't do that. So that's why I fight with myself about it. Gray. I gotta remember, gray. Not black, not white, gray. I did bad. I did not do that bad. I did not do that other bad. I did not do violence. I did not do violence against anyone. It was the most Jewish crime ever. It was a transaction. Oy vault, right? Fucking half Jewish. I can make that joke.
You have a disability. And in fact, people there for charges against disabled people from the streets, yo, those dudes have a real rough run at it. We don't take kindly to your top round here, boy. So it just logically makes sense that if somebody's disabled in there, we're gonna look out. And I don't think that a lot of people understand this about people that are in prison, but a lot of people in prison are actually decent people. They just messed up. A lot of them were on drugs. A lot of them have mental health issues.
He brings up a very good point that I took for granted. I didn't think it needed to be said. But the people that go to prison, there's generally a reason why we did what we did. I did what I did because I was fat and useless and depressed, and I couldn't even reach my dick because my gut was so big. So I hired someone to do it for me. Not the smartest idea, but that doesn't necessarily make me a bad person. The things that led up to it could have made me a bad person if jail hadn't woken me up to the reality of the situation I was in. I could have become a bad person because I lived in Sacramento, California, super liberal state, fucking... all that SJW shit would have gotten into my head somehow, probably. Just I wouldn't have had access to anything other than the sheltered lifestyle, right? So, but I mean, there is no evil. Everyone thinks they're good. Everyone thinks they're doing good. Or as good as they can. Even people in prison. So, don't just dismiss somebody because they've been to prison or jail or even if they have a sex crime, even if they have a bad sex crime, even if they fucking diddled a kid. Like, people can change. People can get better. And like I said, the only people that I feel should be unforgivable are people that do unforgivable things to kids or to animals. Actual rape, actual molestation, actual animal abuse, But like at the same time, if somebody pays their debt to society, they should, like, if somebody's trying to fix themselves, they shouldn't be completely fucked for life, right? I don't know. It's when kids and animals get involved, everybody gets defensive. I mean, this dude gets off on beating the shit out of pedos. And, I don't know. I've known pedos because of that counseling thing. And for whatever reason, I can tell when it's an incidental thing that'll never happen again, when it's somebody who's legitimately sick and is trying to get better, and when somebody is just an actual predator who doesn't consider his victim's actions, or his victims before he acts. And it's human. The human condition is hard, But I don't take quite the hard line that this guy does about, beat the shit out of all the pedos. I guess I'm beat the shit out of most of the pedos.
And a lot of them weren't getting their needs met on the streets, so they made terrible mistakes, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not excusing it. I take accountability for my crimes. Everyone should take accountability for their crimes. If you have to do time, do your time. Man up, get out, and do better. I'm 1,000% about that.
Yeah, that was the conclusion I came to when I was on the inside. The day I got my sentence, the day I got my release date, that was what I figured. Okay, I did the crime. I've admitted it. I got the time that I need to do. After that, I'm never coming back here again. That is my goal, to never, ever come back here again.
But when everybody's in there and a lot of people are sober, a lot of these people that did terrible things, they act out of community. They act out of empathy. They act out of compassion. I have been on units where people feed each other, where people will buy each other hygiene if the dude is broke. Like, we look out for each other in there to a certain extent. And we definitely look out for the people that are there with good charges that can't take care of themselves. We'll do whatever we can to make sure that your needs are met. I know, none of this fits the narrative about these terrible, awful criminals, does it? But it's the facts of the matter.
That was the other thing. there's a lot of misinformation about prison and jail, and I'm pretty sure it's there to scare the shit out of people like me. Because if I'd known then what I know now, my trip to jail would have been much, much different.
Even a lot of these dudes at their absolute lowest, man, out on the streets, mental health problems, completely strung out, broke. If they saw somebody picking on somebody that was disabled, they would probably run that person through with the quickness. I know I would. And we also see the gaps in accommodations that the prison system makes for these prisoners that have disabilities. Yo, they're not properly taken care of. So we try to do what we can to make sure that they're straight.
Yeah, when D, was banging on the fucking cell door to let them know that I collapsed because of my asthma, and he probably saved my life. So,
In prison, they think just because they put a ramp next to the stairs and you can push yourself up, that you're straight. And if you can't push yourself up, they don't care if you get access to the yard or not. They say just sit there in your cell, sit there in your unit, sit there in your dorm and rot. It's not our problem. So it's absolutely not uncommon to see dudes pushing each other, helping each other, working it out, making it happen. You're blind? Homie, I got you. Let me be your eyes. You're deaf? Good thing that half of us learned sign language so we can communicate with each other through the window. I never learned sign language. I really wish I did. I would be a better person today if I had. And it's unfortunate that a lot of us, including myself, who violated our community, who did terrible things to our neighbors, go to prison, and then we figure out what community's actually all about. But that's just the reality sometimes, man.
Sometimes you need a hard lesson.
It's a good thing, because the vast majority of these people are not in there for life. They are coming back to your community, and they will be your neighbors again. So in my opinion, being able to help
I'm a neighbor.
Disabled is a really good thing for these inmates, man, because it builds empathy, it builds compassion, it builds a sense of service, and then they can feel good about themselves because they don't really have self-esteem, a lot of these people. Like, they've never done a lot of good things in their life, so a lot of people will jump at the opportunity to do something selfless in there. I know that it's a lot easier to think about these people as if they're not actual human beings, but the truth is that we all really are. Except the diddlers, because pedos aren't people. I've said this before, and I'm going to keep saying it. The prison system is not set up to help people succeed when they get out. It's to keep that revolving door coming.
You ain't fucking kidding there, my friend.
So they get that repeat business. But that just creates people that go out and re-offend and keep victimizing the community that they live in. Which is you! It's you! They're setting you guys up for failure as well as the people who are prisoners. So until we start offering mental health treatment, substance abuse treatment, and life skills to these people and giving them some sort of opportunities when they get out, it's gonna keep wreaking havoc on our communities. And that's our video for today, y'all.
Alright, there's the outro, and learning to love yourself. This will probably be interesting.
Hey y'all, today's video is going to have a little bit different vibe from normal, but it is one of the most important components to my personal happiness, my recovery, my healing. So look, the first and most important thing to keep in mind with all of this is that healing is not linear. Recovery is not linear. Learning to love yourself is not linear. It is a process. There are ebbs and flows. Some days are going to be better than others. You might take 3 steps forward and 2.
That's any kind of self-healing, because like with the weight loss, it was ebb and flow. I had to find what worked, and even though I've got a routine, there are days when it's harder than others. Like, even today, it was really hard to get the weights and the push-ups and sit-ups done, but the laps were fucking piss simple. And then I ate a little too much, and not too bad, but a little more than I'd have liked, probably. I think I'll still lose weight, but not as much as I would maybe have if I had stuck to 1 open-faced sandwich instead of 2, And then, I'm sure all of this is just being really helpful to my mental health. But anyway, yeah, he's very right about ebb and flow. If there's one thing I've learned, is that you can't beat yourself up over bad days. You just have to accept. You have to accept that bad things will happen. You'll have to accept that you'll fail, and you just keep going. You just keep trying harder tomorrow.
2 steps back, but as long as you keep moving forward, as long as you keep acting out of the correct and proper intention, things always seem to get better. And look, when I was all the way dinged out, I thought that life would be perfect, life would be amazing if I could just quit the substances, and that is not at all a realistic expectation. I don't want to give you guys that. I don't ever want to sell you false promises or false dreams. Yo, I started using because life was messed up in the first place, because I was messed up in the first place. this. Just yanking my security blanket off of me did not fix all of my problems magically. That's not how it works. And in a lot of ways, the substances that I used that numb me completely out so that I didn't have to experience my own feelings, they helped in a huge way. But the absolute catastrophic consequences that they brought with them, in the end, it just made it not worth it at all whatsoever. But I don't want you guys to think this is in any way exclusive to substance use. It's absolutely not. There are so many reasons why people have trouble loving themselves. You could have gone through trauma. You could have not felt the proper love when you were raised, man. Like,
ding, ding, fucking Carl.
Your parents might not have shown you the correct way to love yourself. You might have done horrible things. Horrible things might have been done to you. There's so
ding
much
and
in the
ding
process of life that can cause you not to love the person that you are. And none of them are invalid. This is never a competition. This is just about getting back to being the best person that we can be.
I don't hate myself. I hate my body. I accept myself. I accept that I make bad decisions. I accept that I'm brash. I'm Billy Big Dick. I am someone who has made mistakes, but I'm also an extremely hard worker, and I'm very dedicated to my goals, which are, the self-improvement kick, but also the accessibility kick. I'm very committed to both of those things. Any dev will tell you. Anybody who's talked to me will tell you that I have been extremely dedicated to making gaming more accessible, as well as I have been in losing weight and fixing my debt and all that stuff. So I accept who I am because I worked my ass off to get here. I do not accept my body. I hate this fucking body. I hate it so goddamn much. And there is nothing that he can say that will make me hate my body less.
So that we can live the best life that we can possibly live. And we're going to take this way back in the old school. Let's rewind, because the main developmental stages of a human being as who we are happen from the ages of birth to 3. There are certain lessons that...
Hey, birth to 3. That was the least traumatic period of time in my life. Bonzer.
We learn during that period of time, they're absolutely quintessential to who we will be for the rest of our lives. And one of those that's the most essential is the world a safe place for me or not? This is super important to us as we grow and develop as the human beings that we're becoming, because in a large way, it determines our confidence and our sense of security. And
so this is interesting, because from 0 to 3, the world was safe. And then I turned 4 and got molested. So it was more like I found out that everything I thought I knew was a lie. And it feels like that kept happening. I would build up safety, and then it would turn out to be a lie. And then it would build up safety again, and it would turn out to be a lie. And then it would build up safety again, and then it would turn out to be a lie. The abuse by my uncle beating the shit out of me, the trip to the nuthatch, and then jail. So...
self. And this world should absolutely be a safe place.
It's a doggo!
We're in our most vulnerable, innocent of phases, but it is often not. And
he has a little emotional support doggo.
that can rob us from the very start of our sense of self. And we are all completely unique. Our life experience is unique. Every single one of us is different. There are a million reasons why we might not love ourselves, but let's get into how to start doing that. It feels weird doing this on a more mellow video, but...
Baby.
I'm doing a video, hang on.
That's fine.
Yeah, but I'm... How do I pause this fucking thing? I can't remember. Was it? Okay, it looks like I did remember how to do that. Okay, cool. Sorry about that, folks. Like I was telling her, normally I wouldn't mind if she came in, but this is kind of raw for me. So, Christ, what was I talking about?
Let's go! 4th and 5th step gave me massive, like a let's go!
Fucking Christ.
And not to sound like a total 12-stepper here, but I will say this, the 4th and 5th step gave me massive amounts of healing. For those of you that don't know what those are, and I totally get it, the main thing, the most important part of that for me was to write out all of my wrongdoings and all of my resentments. And like it turned out to me that most of my resentments were at myself more than anyone else. Something that was really important.
So this is interesting. The forgiveness thing... I forgave myself for the sex crime, and I forgave myself for all the shit I did as a kid. Fuck off, Chip! You know, over a long time. It took me a long time. It was very, very subtle. But my resentments, that happened in one instant. When I got the fibro diagnosis, my rheumatologist said, you need to remove stress from your life. So, like, all of your grudges that you have against people who've done you wrong, all of the anger that you have, you need to get rid of all of it. And at that very moment, I got rid of all the grudges I had against everybody who'd done me wrong. I just, gone. I don't know how normal people do it, but for me, it's a switch in my head. I just jettisoned all of it. But the anger at my body being this way is not at anybody. It is at my body itself for not working like I want it to. So it's constructive anger because I'll be goddamned. I'm going to make that fucking thing work for me, damn it. So I still have ungodly amounts of rage, but I try to use it constructively. That was one of those things I learned in jail. Well, actually, that's one of those things I learned after jail, but I learned it because of jail. So
important for me to learn to be able to do was to understand what I had done wrong and to be able to understand the ways that I affected other people, growing empathy, but that hurt me. That made me feel like I had lower self-esteem. I had to learn to forgive myself for the person that I was, for the mistakes that I made, understand that I was still growing, that I was still a hurt person, and
that we are not the people that we were when we committed these crimes.
That hurt people hurt other people. And there's an amends step, but yo, you can't go back and actually fix all of the damage that you did. It's just not possible. You could break a plate and you can glue it back together, but it's never gonna be the same. You have to learn to understand, accept, and forgive yourself. When I really dissected it and got to the root of it and played the tape all the way to the end, I realized that when I was suffering, I took that out on other people in a lot of ways. And
yeah.
yes, that was absolutely foul, but until I fixed
that fucking happens to me. Like, when I'm in bad pain days, it's like the fibro's really going because the weather's all fucked up or I'm under some you know, other kind of stress. I will lash out because my temper will be just so hair trigger. I mean, you probably saw it earlier when I yelled at Chip because I didn't exactly yell at him, but I, you know, vented that out a little bit just because this is a raw subject for me.
Until I learned to forgive myself and to move differently, I was just going to repeat that cycle. So it became such a necessary step for me to let that old stuff go. Holding on to it was poison. Holding on to it was a weight that was going to keep me at the bottom of the ocean. The easiest part of that equation for me was learning to forgive others for the wrongs that had been done to me. I've always been way more apt to understand other people's struggles and be able to forgive them for that than I've been able to give myself that grace and mercy. And none of that was an overnight process. I really had to analyze who I had been, who I wanted to be, and what I had to do to get from point A to point B. I went to one of the men who was one of my mentors, and I honestly attribute this dude largely for helping me save my own life. And I told him, Joe, I hate myself, man. I cannot stand
his friend's name is Joe too.
Myself. How do I get out of this pattern? And he looked at me and he said, bro, you have low self-esteem. I said, no shit, man. Tell me something I don't know. He said, how about this? If you want self-esteem, start doing some esteemable shit. Well, that makes too much sense. It can't be that easy. And it really was, man. He told me to start being more selfless. Go do some stuff that doesn't benefit me in any way, shape, or form. Be of service to the other living creatures in my universe and stop thinking that the fucking world revolves around me. Wow, that's crazy. The world doesn't revolve. Yo, I don't know, bro.
We are not the main characters in our own stories.
Oh, but I started doing it, and it started working. The more that I did things outside of my own personal benefit, the better I started to feel about myself.
That's why I do the accessibility stuff. It makes me feel good about myself. That's why I make these videos trying to help people not make the mistakes that I did, because I want to pay it forward. I don't want this good thing that has happened, this transformation that has happened to me, to end with me. I want to help other disabled people who are where I was. You know, I don't want people to have to hire hookers. I don't want people to fucking go to jail. I don't want people to fucking feel useless. I want to help people not be where I was. Same thing this guy's doing, pretty much.
the more comfortable I started to feel inside my own skin. It became like a new drug. To be able to help other people gave me the feeling.
So, interesting thing about drugs. My drug was food. That was where I got my dopamine to deal with the pain. Now my dopamine comes from walking a lap, because I walked a lap instead of eating, or doing my sit-ups, push-ups, and weight stuff because I did all that and didn't eat, or, you know, playing with Chip, or helping the wife on a dungeon run in fucking Final Fantasy, or making a video, or streaming, or doing anything other than fucking eating. I mean, there are times to eat, sure, but, you know, I do the eating, and then I do exercise. Or, you know, they're like tomorrow, we're having some of Derek's making a breakfast thing that he's making it tonight, and I'm going to have mine tomorrow. And then for dinner, he's making meat. Capital's meat. He bought like a fucking London broil and shit. So there'll be time to eat, but I'm not going to eat a bunch. I'm going to eat a little, because if I eat a bunch, I have to do a bunch of laps. And I don't want to fucking do a bunch of laps, so I'm going to eat a little and do a lap. But, I'm not going to eat a bunch of nuggies. I'm not going to fucking eat a bag of tots like I did. I'm not, you know, back in the day. I'm not going to eat a bunch of fucking sweet shit. I get the cravings like any hophead, but it's a different kind of craving, but it's the same basic idea. I still want all that shit, but I can't do it anymore. Physically, I can't because my stomach is shrunk, but mentally, it doesn't work anymore. Like, I had the tots a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was a week ago, I don't remember. And, no, it was a couple of weeks ago. And it didn't work. The salt worked. The salt always works, but the tots themselves, I should have just had a thing of saltines. So, yeah. But yeah, he's right. If you have low self-esteem, do something esteemable. Help people. Not for your own gain, but for the goodness of helping people. Altruism doesn't exist. There is no such thing as altruism. Everybody gets something out of something. But I don't feel like there's anything wrong with that. If you're doing good to help yourself, you're still doing good. So, you know, as long as you're not taking advantage of people, as long as you're actively doing good things to help people, who cares why you're doing it? For your own self-esteem, right?
That I chased when I was using drugs, and it never actually gave me what I was looking for. And sometimes that looked like getting out of bed at 4 a.m. to go to the bushes over by McDonald's and pick someone up out of a bush and drive them to detox and make sure that they got in so that they didn't overdose and die in the bushes again. And sometimes it looked like just sitting down with somebody over coffee and talking to them and making them feel seen and heard and understood and loved so they felt less alone.
That's the other thing I want. I want to help people like that. I don't want people to feel as alone as I felt for so fucking many years. Ugh, it was so depressing how alone I was. Now I live with 3 people, so I can't be alone.
It started off with these small baby steps, man. And then I started sponsoring people in the 12-step programs, and that was amazing. But then I wanted to do it bigger because I'm a junkie, bro. If I feel something that feels good, I always want to do it bigger. So I started building community outreach.
That's why I keep losing weight. I want to see how low I can go.
I started a non-profit that raises funds for people in early recovery that can't afford mental health services. I started doing all of these things that benefited everybody but me. But in the long run, it benefited me more than it ever benefited any of them, because that was the process in which I learned to love myself again. And then I would have days where I would feel just awful about myself again. I still have days where I feel awful.
Oh yeah, it never goes away.
I still have days where it's hard to get out of bed, but I understand this is all just a part of the process. Usually, when I don't feel good about myself, my instant reflex action now is to try to be of service to someone else. That always makes it go away. And I am not trying to tell you that it's just simple or it's easy. Look, I'm not trying to stoke my own ego here. Like, I have had the same clean date since 2019, and that is a huge accomplishment for me personally. A guy who woke up in the morning wanting to numb out, who went to bed at night, had to numb out before I could go to sleep. But look, during that period of time, I lost 2 of the things that were the most important in my life. I lost my service animal of 13 years, and I lost a child. And I didn't resort back to my old ways through either of those situations. And that to me is a miracle.
Yeah.
The struggle has been real. And if I hadn't built a base and a foundation within myself of self-love and of understanding and of forgiveness and of humility and of gratitude for everything that I have, I probably would have thrown it all away.
Now, I do want to echo what he says about how it's not easy. Nothing big is easy, but most big things can be built up to from small things. Like, if I wanted to, I could walk 6 laps. I could walk 12 miles. I could just get up, go. I didn't start off that way, for Christ's sake. I barely started out being able to walk 10 minutes without needing an asthma hit. With my fucking lungs. But I worked up to it. I didn't start off eating 2 bowls of food a day. I worked up to it. I ate less. I ate less, crap. I mean, the only thing I really cut out when the gout hit was I cut out the processed stuff, but I still ate a bunch. Like, there were weeks, like, Wednesday's always the day we get food. We get crap food. And for a while there with the weight loss, I was still buying pizzas from Papa Murphy's, taking them, baking them, eating them, and not mediums. No, extra larges, family sizes, whatever. And then it got down to where I was eating half of a family size. And then it got down to where I was eating half of a large. And then it was getting down to where I was eating half of a medium. And now I can probably get away with 2 pieces of medium and then 2 more pieces of medium later. So, it's baby steps. I didn't start knowing all this shit about accessibility. I had to, the hatred devs reached out to me, and I don't know how they found me. And I gave them basic ideas, and then I talked to more devs and learned what worked and learned what didn't work. And it's a process. Everything good, everything big is built from small things, except for, super big things. Anyway.
Besides just forgiving yourself and being of service, there are little tools that we can use to learn to love ourselves, but they're kind of corny, man. They kind of feel like kind of cheeseball and everything. I've never had a client stoked about them when I told them that they needed to do them, but they've always come back in the end and been like, man, like, I felt so awkward. I hated you every time I went to go do these things, but they actually really helped. Positive self-affirmations. I would tell my clients that when they wake up in the morning that I want them to write 3 things that they love about themselves. 3 things about who they are. And I'm not talking about physical attributes. I'm talking about their character. I'm talking about their spirit.
Since I never had to go through this specific thing, I don't do this. I just know that I have worth. Partially because I was born with some of it, and partially because I earned most of it. I know what my worth is. I've always known what my worth is. My problem is that nobody else seems to know what my worth is. And my worth is a fuck lot more than the government thinks it is, because I'm not allowed to work.
Talking about things that they've done in their life. I'm talking about knowledge or wisdom that they've gained. Start your day on the right track! Another thing that was hugely relevant to me personally was that I started aligning the things that I was taking into myself, into my mind, into my spirit, emotionally taking in with the goals that I actually had, how I wanted to feel, and who I wanted to be. Because I had listened to like a lot of emo rap, like a lot of Little Peep, a lot of Nothing Nowhere, a lot of really dark stuff, a lot of really dark metal, a lot of gangster rap, hardcore crime-related stuff, and it wasn't getting me where I wanted to be. It wasn't leaving me the feeling that I wanted to have.
Yeah, I know what he's talking about. That came over time. It just slowly changed for me. When I stopped being depressed, the depressing music stopped being as enticing. But I will go for months before I listen to music or consume certain kinds of media. Like, I've never been a big movie guy. And the the more media stuff I like is, like, I guess the more subtle shift would be I've stopped listening to Stephen King books, and I've started listening to more Michener. Like, exclusively, just because I love Larry A. McKeever. This is the 2nd video in a row I've mentioned him. He's a great reader, at least for me. Everybody else probably thinks he's boring as shit. But anyway, that kind of came over time for me. It just, when I wasn't depressed, I didn't want to listen to depressing things.
So I started listening to more uplifting music, and I know that sounds super Ned Flanders, right? I 100% get it. Sometimes you just listen to stuff that's upbeat without any lyrics, because some of that stuff can be really cringy.
Pelican is a really good band for that.
But I noticed an almost immediate difference when I started changing the stuff that I was taking in. But think about it, your mind and spirit are just like your body. So if you're eating nothing but junk food all the time, your body's gonna feel like shit. If you're putting nothing but junk into your mind or your spirit all the time, how do you think that's gonna feel? I had to do it, man, and I felt so much better once I did. And once I got those pieces of the puzzle nailed together, it started occurring to me that my circle of people that I was surrounding myself with were entirely negative. They were not aligned with the person I wanted to be or the goals that I had for my life.
I never had this problem, but I know people who have. I do not brook bullshit. I do not take it. I will not take it. If somebody is trying to fuck me around, jerk me around, bullshit me, I do not like it. Because I used to be a bullshitter. I used to be a liar. I was a prolific liar. I used to be really good at it too. And when I got into jail, that was when I decided I was never going to lie again. And I view it as taking shortcuts off the backs of other people's kindness. And once I realized what I was doing by lying all the time, it made me feel gross. Like, it made me feel like a terrible person. So I just one of the things I jettisoned when I went into jail that I decided was not, like, there was a rebuilding period. Once I got my date, I rebuilt. And I went through all the crap I did to end up, and I just flipped switches, jettisoned all the shit that got me to where I was. I didn't get all of it, but I got all the big ones. Like lying, that was a big one. And so I'm not as good at spotting liars now because I haven't done it for so long, but I'm okay at spotting liars now. But I do not like liars. I fucking hate liars. I would rather bunk with an honest child molester than a liar. Honest to God. And I've said that for years and years. I've said that for decades. I fucking hate liars because I used to be one, and I hated myself because it's like I said, it's using people for your own gain. It's getting your own gain shortcut off the back of other people. It's terrible. It's entitled is what it fucking is. And don't even get me started on the entitled mentality of today. Jesus Christ. Be here all fucking night.
So I ended up having to change that out too because they were not progressing in the correct direction that I wanted to be in. And as somebody with a lot of loyalty, like, I still wish them well. I still see them in passing, but I don't give them the same access to myself that I used to. Because that's something I need to do to protect my peace so that I can continue to move forward and grow and love myself. And there's no judgment for me because I stayed in the same cycles for decades. But when I see these people, they're still on that same loop, and it sucks. And I've tried to drag them out. I've tried to help them with it, but they don't seem to have the same willingness to move forward that was so punctual in me.
God, that one hits really hard because ever since I've started losing weight, I've been trying to get other people to lose weight, and it has not gone well. But then again, I'm a little forceful. You might have noticed.
I cut anything that did not meet my goals out of my life. And I started hitting those goals. And every time I hit a goal, I felt better about myself. I felt bigger. I felt stronger. I felt more secure in the human being that I was. And I immediately set new goals. And I've been doing that nonstop since I've been in recovery. At this point, I can love myself.
That's what workaholics do. We always have to have a goal. We always have to have something to work towards. Otherwise, that's part of why I went insane in jail. There was no goal to work towards. There was no light. There was no sound. There was nothing to work towards. It was just me in a cell by myself, fluorescent lights all the time. It drove me nuts.
Through that process, wherever I'm at in that process. So look, I hope that this one was helpful, man. I'm really going to try to pay attention to the comments. If any of you guys have any questions, if there's any way that I can...
Yeah, so that's these 3 videos. I will link all of these videos in the description. In fact, I will open a window, do that now. And I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope this has been helpful. I hope this has been informative. If you have any questions, I will answer any questions in the comments. I have been Mad Max, and I will see you all next time.